Hello, my name is Gina, and I am quite frankly very tired of these little bumps on my chin. We are gathered here today, with me a little bit more high energy because it's not in the morning, to help out a friend. So my friend Rachel is just getting into makeup. She told me that she had been struggling a little bit with an eyeshadow look that she was trying to put together. She sent me this picture and then sent me a picture of her face, which did not look like that picture. I figured, well, why don't I just go ahead and film something for her, since I can't think of anything off the top of my head that is gonna suit her needs for what she's trying to do. That is this video. We're gonna cover color selection, we're gonna cover blending, we're gonna cover basic and intensifying a look, so a day to night kind of deal. We're gonna cover a lot of stuff here in the course of just one eyeshadow look. So I hope that you are ready, and we are just going to go ahead and get started. So before we get started in the actual tutorial part, I'm going to talk a little bit about selecting eyeshadows and selecting what you're going to wear. My advice is first to pick the shadow that you want to be like the star of the show, right? The reason why you're excited to do your makeup, the thing that you want to put on your eye the most. And in this case, for me and my friend, it is a nice shimmer. She really, really likes her shimmer. It is a very bright, light indigo, and it has a lot of shimmer, a lot of reflect. And then my suggestion would be for just 2 matte shades. The picture that she showed me, I think, uses 3, but just to keep it simple, just to make sure that we're learning our basics, we're just gonna stick with 2. A lot of what the mattes are gonna do is they're gonna create what we call depth, which is emphasize or change the shape of the way that your eye looks. And this is what I would recommend if you're incredibly new to eyeshadow, is to pick neutrals or browns for your mattes to go in the crease. And when you do that, you want to pick neutrals that are of similar temperature, which means like warm or cool. Because this is an indigo, this is a very, very blue purple, we would want cool toned neutrals, like a really light mauve. I don't have a ton in my collection in that general area because I work with color so much more. But outside of the brown family, you can also go with grays if that's something that you're comfortable with. So that's what I picked. I picked a lighter, or this is a medium gray, and a medium dark gray as well. And that's what I'm gonna use here today. Try and put the eyeshadows next to each other, as close together as you can get them, overlap your palettes, whatever you gotta do, and just kind of look at them and say like, does this vibe? Do I look at this and say like, yeah, these go together? Or I had a boss once who called it vibrate, right? They vibrate off of each other, they clash. I look down and I do think that this vibes just fine and I can work with it. So those are the 3 colors we're gonna do today. If you want to do an inner corner highlight or a brow bone highlight, I can pick that out too. For me, I'm going to pull just a general like cool white. And I put that all together and I think that that looks good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. The first thing to do, and this I do think is really important, is to put a primer on your eyes. Most people's eyelids create some kind of oil throughout the day. Typically, most people find that they need something to protect their eyeshadows from the oils on their lids. So I use this one, the Smashbox 24-Hour Primer, but if you are not particularly oily in that area, any other primer, eyeshadow primer, will work just fine. So I put a little bit of that on my fingers and I'm just gonna rub them together, and I'm just gonna smear that everywhere that I'm gonna put eyeshadow. If you have a lot of veins or blood vessels that show on your eyes, you can also follow this up with a concealer to kind of mask some of that. If you do, just dot a couple on and spread it out again, just like I did with the primer, and just tap it out wherever you're gonna be putting eyeshadow. The next step is something that if you watch a tutorial made in the last couple of years, you won't see anybody do this. But if you're a beginner, I do think this is a very important step. And that is to set your primer with powder. What this means is we're gonna put either an eyeshadow that is the same color as your skin, or in my case, a translucent powder. We're gonna take that and we're gonna dust that everywhere that I put primer, that you put primer. What this is gonna do is it's going to make it smooth to the touch and will help your eyeshadows blend more smoothly. If you're using a heavy duty primer like me, it may also be advantageous to wait a couple minutes for it to dry down a bit. Now for the fun part. A lot of the time you see beauty YouTubers go in with like 12 different brushes. They have like 6, I have a crap ton of brushes. But for beginners, for basic eye looks like this, I am of the firm belief that you only need one brush. And that as a beginner, you are better served by learning a basic blending brush like this than trying to work with or juggle 6 different brushes. And now I'm gonna zoom you in so that you can see what we're doing. All right, here we are up close and personal with my eye. My camera might be struggling to focus a bit. I'm going to pick up my one brush with my lightest shade, and I'm gonna start applying that. Something to note if your eyes are hooded, which almost everybody's is that you wanna find your crease. So take a second and take the end of your brush and poke until you find where your eye starts to go back into the socket, which for me is right around here. That's my crease, and that's where we're gonna put all of our transition shades. With the light gray, I am going to tap pretty gently to start off with because we're beginners and we wanna go slow. Tapped in there, got some product. I am going to tap off the excess like this, and with the side of my brush, with the flat side, I'm gonna start sweeping that through the crease area. So this is a very light shade, as you can see. I'm just grabbing a little bit more. And setting my primer definitely makes it have a bit less impact, which is another reason why it's good for beginners. So how I'm going about this is I'm using the flat side of my brush to put the color in, and then rotating up so that the tip is on my eye, and using, I wouldn't say windshield wipers, we're not doing this, but it's more choppy, whereas I'm wiggling the brush and doing that all around with the tip. I'm going to build up one more layer of this, and then I'm going to call that done for now. Something I neglected to mention, I have in my lap a towel, just a regular bath towel, and when I'm done with a color, I'm gonna take my brush and just swirl it around on that towel to get out any excess eyeshadow. Then I'm gonna go in with my darker shade here, do the same deal, tap tap with the side of my brush like this. Product is on there, tap off excess, and then much lower. We're not gonna put it on the same space. We're gonna put that in here. And then for this one, because the color is a lot darker and I'm not sure how it's gonna play, I'm going to tap first. I'm just gonna use little tapping motions right in this area. And then I'm gonna say, like, that's probably enough. I'm gonna whack my brush again, then taking the tip, blending that out. So what this does is that adding this darker shadow creates depth in the eye. Because we're bringing eyeshadow above that fold, we want to realign the eye to say, like, no, the depth is through here instead of where that fold is. I am also going to take that dark shadow here in the corner and tap it, and then again with the tip of my brush. Now I'm using circular motions. And the reason why I'm doing this is because the shape that we're creating today is a fan shape. And what this does is it creates the illusion of a more elongated eye. And to do that, we are bringing this dark shade through here to say, like, this is receded, right? This is receded back, and it's receded back at a much further point back than my natural eye is. So we're using that circular motion, and then again, with no additional product, bringing that color back through. Now I feel like my light gray got a little lost, which is okay. This is really just to transition out, but I do kind of think I would like it to have a little bit more time before it is completely run over. So I'm gonna take my light gray again, just with the tip of my brush, and I'm gonna go right on the edge here. And that kind of lightens the whole thing up. Sometimes really important to just pause and look up, look straight in the mirror, because one of the struggles that I have a ton is, especially with my outer corner, I don't also bring it in far enough, so it kind of looks like I have a weird loop on my eye, which is kind of what I think is going on here. So I'm just going to bring a little bit more of that dark gray. Obviously, the more shadow we add, the darker and smokier it's gonna get. So if it's most important to you to keep it light, don't feel like you have to do that. All right, so we have our base. We have the crease shade, which is transitioning our colors out. We also have our deepening shade, which gives us our outer corner definition as well as our crease definition. So now we're ready for the star of the show, our shimmer. I am taking my brush, making sure that it's wiped off on the towel. Then I'm going to take my shimmer. Now, how you go about it is going to depend on how the eyeshadow is pressed. If you're working with a shimmer formula where like you barely touch it and a ton comes up on your finger, you want to go in much lighter, because what's going to happen is that the texture of these bristles is going to pick up that shimmer much more than you think it will. If you're working with a shimmer that's really tightly pressed, where you feel like you have to like dig your finger into it, you want to use that texture to your advantage. And you want to go in and like move back and forth and really kind of dig at it. The one that we're working with today is very well pressed in that it's firm, it's not crumbly, but it's also, we're not going to have to work at it that hard. So I'm going to take my brush, and with, again, using that texture, I'm just gonna brush at it a bit. So I've got about that much product. I'm happy with it. I'm not going to tap it off at this point. And for our first pass, we're gonna put it on dry. So I'm taking that, I'm gonna rotate here, and I'm kind of pressing it and then dragging in a flicking motion, because with a shimmer, shimmers tend to have a lot of grip on them and they don't want to come off of the brush. So I actually I went back into my pan and I got a bit more, and I'm just, again, press and flick, press and flick. So you kind of have to not dig it into your eye, but you have to kind of press it to make sure that it gets off of the brush. So I'm doing that pressing and flicking motion like this, and then I'm still with the flat mostly. Like the flat of my brush is hitting my eye, but I'm focusing on the outer edge here with the bristles. So I'm like rotated a little bit. So I'm not like fully flat. But I'm not like here. I'm like somewhere in between, so that the brush is still all the way on my eye, but most of the traction is in the tip of the bristle. And that's what I'm using to blend this out. I'm gonna get a little bit more. and bring that out here as well. I don't want to bring it too far because I don't want to sacrifice that shape that I've made, but if that's not something that you are as concerned with, then you do you. Still in that like 45-degree angle rotation, just kind of working that all the way through. I'm also, if I open my eyes and look like straight at you, you can see that the color is coming up here, which for me is fine because again, my crease is all the way up here. I don't want it to become, I don't want it up above my crease, but I do want it to be up there. I do want it to have its moment. You don't have to bring your shimmers up that far if you're not comfortable with it. You can keep them down low, that's fine. I kind of over blended, or I took this a little bit further out than I wanted. So I'm just gonna take a smidge, like a really, really light amount of that dark gray and just cover that up. So this is a basic soft look. We have structure here. We've got our creases nice and blended. It might be a little high for some people. The color might be a little strong. As you adjust your colors, you know, do you. You can very easily put a nude color here and have some warm browns on the outside and you'll have a much less powerful look. But here's what we've got so far. It's very soft, very romantic. I am going to show you how to intensify it before we go on to the next step. So you can stop here. If this soft is the way that you like it, the way that you roll, stop here, move on, skip forward in the video to when we do the lower lash line. You're good. But for my bold girls, we're going to go back into this gray. I'm gonna pick up a bit more, again, at the side here, and we're gonna drop that right on the bottom corner of your eye. And when it's as dark as we kind of feel like it should be, we're gonna get the rest of our stuff off. And then we're gonna take the tip of our brush and we're just gonna swirl that bad boy out. So you can see how this makes it a lot darker, a lot more smoky, a lot more intense. This is how I like to do my eyeshadow. And then again, I haven't picked up any more product. I'm taking that and in the same motions, so swirling here and then moving into that kind of jerky back and forth, I'm taking that through here. If your eyeshadow doesn't blend like that, if that color doesn't carry and move with you, you can get a little bit more, but my suggestion would be to put less here, swirl it out, and then just get a little bit more here when you go into this area. A little bit more, like I was talking about, and I'm just gonna tap here just a bit and then blend it on through. Using the tip of my brush with those jerky back and forth motions. I would say there's a little rotation. There's like a little bit of swirl there, but not a ton. With that outer corner, that darker shade intensified, the lid's kind of looking a little lame. So there are two ways you can intensify your shimmer. One is what we're gonna do, which is to go in with our finger. The other is to pick more up on your brush and then use a glycerin spray like Fix Plus or Urban Decay's setting spray, Morphe Continuous Setting Mist, anything like that. A glycerin-based spray. Use a glycerin-based spray. Water will not work, alcohol will not work. You'll ruin your eyeshadow, don't do it. But you pick the dry eyeshadow up on your brush, then spray it, and then put it on your eye. Do not spray your brush first because you'll ruin your eyeshadow. Today, we're gonna work with the finger because I feel like that's probably what people have more access to. Going back with my shade Devious, taking my ring finger, swirling that around, getting yay amount of product. Then starting at the base of my eye, right near the lid, I'm just gonna tap that in. You can see how intense that is. And you can carry this up as far as you like. You can keep the intensity way on the bottom. You can bring it up through, like so. And just tap it in. Shouldn't need a whole lot more in the way of blending. but always stop to check. So now our eye is a bit more intense. You can even go in with another layer of that gray if you want. The only thing I would say is that the more you layer your mattes, the less likely they are to stick to your eye consistently. So when you do that third layer, be sure to be careful that you don't create patchiness. So I was taking stock and I feel like I want a little bit more. So we've got that going. Everything's nice and blended, very soft, very smoky. I'm going to do my other eye the same way that we've done this one, do the rest of my makeup, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about how to do the lower lash line, the brow bone highlight, and an inner corner highlight. So essentially, to do the lower lash line, we're gonna do more or less the same thing that we did on the top. We're gonna go in with our light shade, gonna go in with our medium shade, and then maybe we'll go in with our shimmer, depending on how we're feeling. So I'm gonna grab this, and this time I'm just grabbing it on the tip of my brush. I'm gonna tap off the excess. And again, just with the tip, I'm gonna buff that through here. Now, there's all manner of lower lash line work that you can do, all of which will work. You typically don't really need a ton on the lower lash line. You just want enough to follow that sense of depth that we did up here. So I'm just using the tip with my light gray. And then after I've got that color laid down, I'm gonna push a little bit harder, get a little bit more of my brush on there, and just blend that out. So in theory, you could stop there, but I'm gonna grab my darker gray, again, just with the tip, just a little bit, and tap that off. And then I'm gonna go here just in the outer corner, mirrored, right? Because if the shape of your eye recedes on the top, it's gonna recede on the bottom as well. So that's what we're trying to evoke here. Because we're working with a fluffy blending brush, you really want to be sure to just use the tip. I am completely perpendicular to my face. I'm also going ahead and with those same motions, just blending through my line here. Now, this is actually a very good place to stop on the lower lash line. You can add shimmer down here, but I find for a lot of people that leaving this part of their eye open, for everyone, it makes the eye seem more open and awake, whereas if you brought colors into here, it would close it off a little bit. And most of the time, people, like, especially if they're doing makeup for work, they want to leave this open so it's bright and, you know, quote unquote, daytime appropriate. For myself, I almost always bring my shadow through here, but honestly, for this look, I kind of dig that it's empty. So I'm gonna leave it. So now we're gonna do a brow bone highlight and an inner corner. So for the brow bone, we have our white shade here. You can go with you can use a matte for your brow bone if you want. You can do no brow bone highlight. You can use a shade that is just a couple shades lighter than your skin. There are a lot of options. I like bling, so I brought in a white. I'm gonna go in with it dry. That came up very well on my brush, so I tapped off some excess. And I'm just gonna sweep that through here. That just gives a little bit of something to this area. You can, of course, intensify it like we talked about before if you want, but I'm happy with that the way that it is. You can also, if you want, bring this shade into this inner corner area here that we left blank, and that will get you something a little bit more dramatic as well. Now, for the inner corner, I fully admit that a fluffy blending brush isn't great for most people's inner corner highlight. For most people's inner corner highlight, they want to keep it pretty tight to the corner of the eye. I like a nice blown out inner corner highlight, so I might do that eventually, but for now, I'll show you how to do it without picking up another brush, and that is just to use your pinky. So I picked up a bunch, and I'm gonna actually like tap that off on my hand a little bit. And I'm just gonna tap that right in here. This is our easy eyeshadow look. If you're interested in that blown out inner corner, you just take your brush and kind of work that in here. You don't want to go like super crazy with it, but just kind of, and I like to carry my highlight up this way as well. And you can even bring it up onto your lid a little bit if you want like that much more dimension. And then of course, like we've talked about before, you can spray it, which I think I'm going to do. This is going to be a little bit more intense. Wiping off my excess on a towel and just kind of working that with the tip until it's blended. And if it doesn't want to blend, I will go in with my finger and tap that out some. So now we have a much more dramatic inner corner as well. So hopefully that was helpful to see both the basic and the dramatic. At this point, I am going to put on eyeliner and mascara and call it done. And I will see you in approximately half a second when the video cuts. Okay, so here is our final look. Again, keep in mind, this is the intensified version. It's a bit darker, it's a bit smokier. This is brought out a lot farther. If it's important to you to make it more subtle, remember, don't wet your shimmer, don't take it in with your finger. Minimize your use of that darker gray. Make sure to keep it really light. Also, when you blend this outer corner, keep it tighter into here. You don't have to wing it out all the way like I do. Some habits die really hard. Before we wrap up, I do want to mention a couple other things just in terms of ease and application in doing a look like this. And that is 2 other brushes that you can bring into your arsenal if you feel comfortable. One is a flat shader brush. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, but for the most part, they are flat like this. They're not fluffy like our blender, and they're a bit stiffer. They don't fluff the same way. They do typically have a rounded top like this, but they do come in a lot of different sizes. Here is another one. So if you have something like this, this is a great thing to pick up your shimmer with. And what you would do is very similarly to how we did with the blending brush, you would just take it, sweep it into the pan, pick up product, lay it down on your eye. The difference is that this isn't going to give you a soft edge like the blending brush did. So when you lay that down, and especially if you lay it down wet, you will have to go in with a blending brush either with matte or with that shimmer dry and buff out the edge so that it's blended. Another thing I think people will find useful, particularly if they don't want this kind of drama on the lower lash line, is a pencil brush. Again, these come in lots of different shapes and sizes, but this is the general gist of it. It is a little bit pointy, but still stiff and round. And what you would do is that instead of using that fluffy shade, you would take this with the tip here and maybe even a 45-degree angle. Pick up that shadow and lay it down here. Similarly to the shader brush, you're not going to get as soft of a blend as you would with the blending brush that we used, but it will help you keep it more concentrated. I think that's all I have to say. I hope that you found this useful. I hope that beginners find this useful and can use this video to build their skills as they start working with eyeshadow. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, feel free to thumbs it down as well, but do let me Do let me know in the comments how I can improve, how I can be a better teacher. I would love to be able to pass on the great wonder that is doing makeup, and in particular doing eyeshadow. If you like me and my flowing red hair, please do subscribe to the channel as well. I upload Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's content, some like this, some are tag videos, some are reviews of makeup as well. You can find me on the internet at Faces by Gina. I have an Instagram and a Facebook account under those names where I upload looks that you're not going to see here on the channel. So there's a good reason to join the fun. I hope that you're having a great day no matter where you are. My sun has come out, which is vaguely annoying for lighting, but it should be a wonderful day here. Please remember to think deeply and critically engage the world around you as you are being good to yourself and being good to others. And I will see you out there on the internet. Bye.